I was born and raised in a small Minnesota town by a lake. My name is Piper. I always tried to make my parents proud because I was the oldest of two girls. Lana is the name of my younger sister, and she has been named that ever since. She learned to talk, and her golden hair, bright blue eyes, and smile could make anyone stop and look at her. Lana was the bright fireworks in a quiet house that could melt anyone. I was just the quiet ghost that followed her around. I was always good, and I never caused any trouble. Lana got a pink bike with a basket on the front when she was 9 years old. I spent the whole summer with her while she was good for a week. As I cleaned the backyard, folded clothes, and mopped the floors, I heard, "Good. Good job, Piper." No hugs, no reward, not even a praise that warmed my heart. Lana was only a kid, so I didn't blame her, but I began to understand. What I did? My parents always looked at her. I did well in school. It was cool to have A-plus tests on the school fridge. But when I got home with a good grade on a district math test, my mom was upset. I looked up briefly and then asked Lana what kinds of cookies she wanted. I stood there with my award in front of me. I felt cold for the first time in a kitchen that was on fire from the oven. Lana was my dad's little princess, and I was the bigger sister. Brand, not a person. Every time Lana asked for a new dress or the newest iPhone, my parents found a way to get it. Whether it was a show in Minneapolis, as for I had to save every penny I earned from part-time jobs since I was 15, to I once asked my mom, "Can I buy that computer? I want to buy it for school." She looked at me and said, "Piper, you always think about money. Wait until Lana was given a gift worth almost $700. Dad gave her an expensive purse just because she's sad about her." I went to my room and stayed quiet after the split. I didn't cry or act out. Stayed in school to get out of a house where every step felt like I was 16 years old when I won a grant to a creative writing camp in Seattle. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance for me. Heart racing. I brought the acceptance, letter home, and gave it to my parents. My mom quickly read it, put it down on the table, and asked, "Can Lana go with you? It would be too bad for her. For you to go by yourself." My hands grew stiff as I held the paper I had worked so hard on for this, and all they could think about was how to connect Lana to it. I wasn't jealous. I was just tired of trying to get attention, and being every time I tried, I was turned down. I realized that in my parents' eyes, flashiness and people liked loud things more than quiet ones, and I was never the kind of kid who turned heads. I left home when I was 18 years old with an old suitcase, a used laptop I got from a store near the gas station, and a letter of acceptance to the University of Oregon with a full grant. There was no farewell party or hug as I left. Mom only said, "Don't work too hard and get sick," as she walked out the door. "Piper," Lana said. That would make Lana mad if that happened. I stopped and looked at her. Eugene and I left in silence. I had rented a small room near campus that had peeling paper walls and wooden floors that squeaked when I turned over in bed. But it was the first place I really owned, with no one else around. Loud pop music, eyes that were harsh on me, my books, and my goals that no one else had written for me. I worked at the school library cafeteria at night and studied during the day. Some nights I didn't get off until almost 1 a.m. I washed my hands, looked at my watch, and hurried home to finish my work. Every extra hour brought me one step closer to the life I wanted. I saved enough money over 2 years to move into a small flat with a kitchen of my own. I also bought my first study desk. I bought it at a garage sale for $20 and cleaned off the peeling paint by hand. I stuck a world map on the wall and marked all the places I wanted to see, even though I knew it would take years. Lana also moved out, but not to go to school. Instead, she signed up for a short course in Los Angeles to play catch-up, but she dropped out after 6 weeks. Weeks, because it didn't match my personal style. Next came a hair. The classes didn't last more than 3 hours. Style, nail design, and spa management. For months, whenever I called home, my mom would answer with a happy, "Piper, did you know?" Lana just signed up for a high-end skincare class. The teacher told her she has a natural knack for beauty. I just submitted my research paper for the Seattle conference. She told me, be quiet for a second, and then quickly changed the subject back to Lana. I found that those calls didn't always bring anything good, but one time, when they did, I opened my notebook and stared at the payslip from my job. It was the most money I'd ever gotten as a student, and it was enough to start. I signed papers for a car a month later because I thought it might be time to buy one. I bought a used silver car from a divorced woman in Springfield. It was old, but the engine worked fine, and she gave me the keys. This car took me to my first job interview and then to the hospital to give birth to both my girls, she said with a smile. I hope it brings you luck too. I nod, and the car became my quiet friend. I never told them that they were driving me to part-time jobs, internships, and ultimately interviews. My family, mostly because I knew they wouldn't, but also because I didn't want to. It's funny how news about CARE still finds its way home one Saturday afternoon while, as I worked in the office for student support, I got a call from Lana Hipper. She sparkled like she was calling from a party by the pool. She heard you bought a car, so it's cute, but it's a used one. I bought it myself, and the phone works well. I paid you with money I earned. Oh my God, are you still doing those little jobs? Why don't you stop? You find someone to take care of you like Nick. He just bought me a 4-figure purse. I hung up the phone while she was talking to him. I sat in the car with my hands on the steering wheel and my mind on the expensive gifts he had given her that night. Spiraling with unspoken questions. Had I made the wrong choice? Was freedom really worth it? Something to be proud of. I thought back to the nights I stayed up late to meet goals and the times I put together painting the walls with used brushes and cooking in an old pot I got at a junk market were things I did by myself. Anyone could have taken something from me, but no one did. That was more than enough for me. 3 years after I bought that used car, I was sitting in an office on the 6th floor of a home. In a downtown Portland glass tower, I looked up at the familiar gray sky. On my desk, there was an etched "Congratulations on your new job as Regional Project Supervisor." I was only 24 years old, making me the youngest person to accept the offer. The only woman on the team to hold that job, and the one I had bought my first apartment with the money I had saved up over 3 years. It wasn't a big place, but it was mine. I chose to throw a small party because it was bright enough, quiet enough, and far enough from the town where I grew up that I couldn't be seen. Housewarming party, nothing fancy, just a few close co-workers, and just to be polite, I set up, each glass and serviette by hand for my family, and picked soft yellow. Instead of bright white laid-out appetizers, I made myself and put a jar on the table on the kitchen shelf when the first co-workers came in. I had bought wildflowers at the E-Aid farmer's market that morning, the flat slowly filled with the sounds of laughs, hugs, and people popping open wine bottles. Asked me about my trip to work on the new project and my job at the tech zone in northern Portland. I told them quickly, but with pride I had never been afraid to show before at an exact 7:15. The doorbell rang, and when I opened it, I saw my dad. Mom, Lana, and Mom, wearing a tight Lana, wore a cream-colored jumpsuit and a big, expensive purse. Renee put on a red dress. They looked around as if they were on a tour of model homes. "Cozy," Mom said dryly, and she went inside right away. My dad gave me a nod and then turned right around to meet the other guests. Lana carefully avoided a few people. When one of my co-workers asked about the project, she put her bag on the couch as if it were meant just for her. I was at the lead when my mom suddenly spoke up. "She's smart, no doubt. But did you all know that a studio just invited Lana in Los Angeles to shoot for an underwear brand? They said she has a look that would look great on Instagram." Look, everyone laughed nicely. And before I could answer, Lana spoke up. "Oh, Mom, stop it. It's embarrassing," she said in a sugary voice. "But they did say a visual appearance that doesn't need to be edited." I tightened my grip on the glass in my hand. Monica is one of my co-workers. raised an eyebrow at me and looked away. I gave her a weak smile and whispered, "She's my sister." During the evening, when I was talking to two top managers about plans to grow into other states, my mom got in again, as if she didn't want me to be the center of attention for too long. "Oh, Piper, did you tell everyone that Lana was asked to? At that event in Miami, she'll likely get a business deal for being the face of an organic cosmetics line." I kept my eyes on Mum at first, then moved to Lana, who was still shining with happiness. She looked proud in her eyes after my parents and Lana left. Monica then came over and put his hand on my shoulder and asked in a low voice, "Piper, are you okay?" Before, Nick and Rachel both noticed. "It's like every praise in your family is sent to your sister instead." I smiled. This time, "I'm really tired." "I'm fine, I'm used to it," he said. "But that's not normal," she said for real. "Those kinds of things in their own family." I didn't say anything else that, after the guests left at night, I washed the cups in warm water. There were still some crumbs and pieces of gift paper on the table, so I should have felt them. Even though I was glad it was a big step forward, I felt like someone had blew out the light I had lit for myself in a quiet way. I had invited them in hopes of fixing something, but it was the same light shining on Lana and me still I had been behind the stage for more than 20 years, so I knew that call would come. Did on Thursday morning while I was meeting with the project head to talk about our plan to grow in Seattle, the name Lana family, and the heart emoji that my mom added years ago showed up on my phone. I turned down the call, replied briefly during a meeting call later. 30 minutes later, the phone rang. In another text message, Mom Lana says that her fiancé is the only son of Mr. and Mrs. I looked at Rowan, the owner of that chain of seaside hotels, and told him how proud I was of my sister. Text message for a long time. I wasn't shocked, but that same weight Lana pressed those two words again, as if they had never been gone. It had been 2 months. My family got together in San Diego. Before the wedding at a beach lodge owned by Lana's soon-to-be-in-laws. No one asked when or where I'd stay, but I was welcome. Mom sent me I bought a coach ticket for myself, but Lana and my parents were clearly booked in business class. Mom texted, "Don't make a fuss about Lana's wedding. You're used to being on your own. What's important right now?" I flew in and booked a room far from the resort. I didn't want to be mean, but I needed some space to stay calm during the wedding. Held on a private beach with live music and silk runners that went all the way to the water, Lana showed up in a dress made just for her from Paris and a diamond ring that sparkled as brightly as her voice on the mic. With love. Thank you all for being there on the most important day of my life. I became the woman I am today with the help of my family, especially my mom and dad. People were everywhere, and as my shoes dug into the sand, someone next to me asked, "Are you the sister-in-law?" Softly shaking my head, "She's my sister." The party went on. Late at night, after fireworks and fire dancers, I was getting ready to leave when my mom grabbed my arm and asked, "Aren't you going to take pictures with Lana?" I stepped in quietly while everyone else was taking pictures of the family. As a shade in the picture, I had to smile for the camera. I was the only one who did. She was dressed for work instead of going out, and Lana, she lit up the whole frame a week. After that, I went back to Portland and lost myself in work, trying to forget about what happened. But Lana wouldn't let me. I forgot every day I saw her, posts about shopping, and Michelin meals. In Tokyo with the text, "Wife life spoil but earned." Mom was still calling, though. Lana is learning to bake French sweets every weekend, and her voice is always happy. Lana's husband gave her the newest Tesla. That's what I call a gift. Careful son-in-law Piper. Did you see that you should really pay attention to how Lana keeps up her appearance around other people? Skilled woman who is always so stiff, who'll love that I ignored her? It became clear over time that those calls were just background noise. It was dull and impossible to take seriously. The next month, I was asked to, I was chosen to talk at a tech conference in Chicago, which was a huge step forward. I sent my mom a copy of the article because I thought it was interesting, but I also wanted to be polite. I wasn't expecting much from the offer, but it still felt nice. After 3 hours, she responded, "Oh, that's fine. But Lana's about to be in Lifestyle Harmony magazine has a beautiful and inspiring part for women. That's real pride right there." It turned off my phone. That night, I was by myself in my flat, and the city lights were flashing outside the window. I held the offer to move to the offices in Boston, which was a dream I had never dared to live. I did when I was a student cleaning libraries, but no one knew, and I no longer do. Felt like telling anyone at the Boston press event where I was. Introducing our newly launched internal, as soon as I put my phone in my coat pocket, it started buzzing nonstop. Looked at the screen between shows backstage and saw that I had missed 5 calls from my mum. I quickly went out to the balcony. It was lightly raining when I picked up the phone. It was my mother's voice. "Piper, please come home right away. Lana Nick kicked her out and she's freaking out. Your dad is looking for sedatives to calm her down." I gripped the phone tighter and felt a cold feeling creeping up my arm. I couldn't keep my voice steady as I asked, "What did he say?" Nick told her she was shallow and only good for having fun and spending money. He took her car, canceled all of her credit cards, and frozen all of her accounts. But guess what? They never registered the "I closed my eyes and didn't come out" of her marriage. Not because I was happy, but because a familiar sadness was seeping through my chest. After a few days, I went to my parents' house in Eugene. The front door was open, and I was shocked when I saw Lana sitting on the floor with her eyes swollen. Their hair was a mess, and pieces of their wedding picture were stuck to a wine glass that was shaking with red liquid. Frames were strewn around under the coffee table, and wine splashes were seen on the wall, like scars from sadness. "She hasn't eaten in 2 days," my mother whispered, her eyes rimmed red. "Just sleeps, drinks, and cries again." I moved closer and sat down at a careful away from Lana. Lana looked up at me with blank eyes. Nick said, "My sister. She makes her own money, but I'm just a leech. So he told me I wasn't worth keeping around. Piper, he told me I was a nuisance." I kept quiet at that point because I was angry. I buried for years rose to the surface again, not because I forgot, but because I knew that saying the wrong thing now would break everything. 3 days had passed, and Lana still. My mom wouldn't leave her room, so she kept calling me and asking if I could help her get over it by taking her. She's used to making me feel better by taking me to the spa or shopping. I sat in the kitchen, a newspaper job listing for local office jobs near Eugene, and put it in front of my face carefully. "Mom, I think Lana should get a job. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. She just needs to find a job where she can get some responsibility and start over." "Routine?" My mom blinked and laughed. "Piper, what are you saying?" "She's been through a lot of mental pain. And you want her to work? How heartless are you? Being honest isn't mean. If you keep spoiling her like this, she'll never get over it." A chair screamed loudly. When my dad walked in, his eyes burned into mine like I had betrayed the family. "Leave this house," he said. I was shocked and asked, "What? What did you say?" I told them, "Leave this house right now if you can't be kind. For your sister, then don't act like you can help. You've never known how to love anyone." I slowly stood up. I was used to being kicked out of a place called home just for saying what other people wouldn't say. As I walked to my car in the rain and opened the door, I caught a glimpse of, when you looked out the window in the living room, the curtains didn't move inside. They were probably huddled around the girl who was always the center of their world, while I was pushed out of the way. Circle again, a week after I moved out of my parents' house, I went back to Boston and tried to drown myself in work like I always do. But this time I'm tired, seeped into every meeting, email, and quiet step inside my clean, quiet home. Flat, I wasn't mad anymore. I wasn't strong enough. I was just tired. I felt sad on the first Monday of the month as I emptied my email and drank my coffee. Cold coffee. I saw a subject line I didn't know. Congratulations, you're the winner. I was about to delete it like any other spam email, but I stopped myself at it was with the company Voyage One Global that I went on a trip. Questionnaire for last year. I opened the message and read it all the way through. You are one of 5 lucky winners of the 5-month program on 5 countries. The prize includes a 5-month all-inclusive world trip leaving next month from Miami. I read it 3 times, but I still couldn't get it. I couldn't believe it, but it was real. After I proved who I was and filled out the appropriate forms, they sent me a confirmation code with a detailed itinerary and list of places to visit. Lisbon, Cape Town, Sydney, Tokyo, and Vancouver made me laugh, and then I started crying in my small kitchen. I felt like I hadn't cried in years because I had been so strong for so long. That night, I called home even though I told myself I would never do it again. At first, I really hoped that my mom would say something nice just once. After the 3rd ring, she picked up. "Hello, I just wanted to let you know," she said. "Know that I won a prize that will pay for my whole 5-month world trip. Travel poll last year." There was a pause, and then her words came through. "Lana is having a terrible time. Do you think now is a good time to talk about vacations?" "Okay, I'll wait." "That you want to share? Well, here's something to share," she continued without turning around. "If you really cared, you'd let your sister Lana take your spot. She needs this trip more than you do." "Than you? You're used to being by yourself." My stomach dropped my grip on. The phone began to shake and there was a beat of quiet. Then, I said, slowly but firmly said, "I'm not giving up the ticket. I've stayed quiet long enough." Her voice said Piper. My voice shot back sharp and cold. I didn't say another word. I just ended. When they called, texted, called back, or said sorry. A month later, I stood on the deck of a ship with a cup of hot ginger tea in one hand and an eye on the deep blue sea. My hair near my face was blown by salty wind. The ship had just left port, Miami, and I felt a quiet glow inside. I didn't talk to anyone for the first 2 days. I just read and wrote. Slept without having any dreams, but on the 3rd day, I started. Talking to an old man. First a couple from Arizona, then a documentary director from Montreal, and finally a Brit. I told her my first name and nothing else about my background or job. I was kicked out of my family's house once for telling my sister to get a job, but no one knew that. I didn't need them. To know that the trip changed slowly in Lisbon, I walked around. Walked on cobblestone paths and ate warm egg rolls in a small cafe with soft guitar music. I stood on a rocky cliff in Cape Town and looked out at the Atlantic Ocean. While sitting under bright red trees in Kyoto, I felt small and grounded. That was the first line in a book I had never been brave enough to open. I'm not anyone, just someone who walked away from everything that wasn't said on the trip. I let everything go, messages unread. I stood at the railing on deck one windless morning and checked my inbox for missed calls. Ocean was as soft as a touch that didn't need to be there. Hands were empty. No need for an answer or sharing, and there's no need for a comparison. Just enough to... I went back to Boston to take a few more deep breaths and enjoy that moment by myself. The leaves on the trees were changing color on a cool, early fall afternoon. A dry, golden wind blew through familiar spots like a dream half-fused. I thought of getting the key when I brought my suitcase up to my flat and reached into my coat pocket. Paused. The lock had been changed. I had a strange feeling in my chest. Again, it didn't fit. With a racing heart, I knocked and rang the bell, but no one answered. There were shuffled steps inside, and when the door opened, Lena stood in front of me. I was in a silk robe with my hair pulled back and carrying a smoothie while blinking like I was a surprise visitor. "Oh, you're back? I thought you were still in Asia. What are you doing here?" My voice didn't sound much like mine. I'm just staying for a while, Mum. They told you it was a waste to leave the place empty while you were away. Who gave you the key? You left a spare with your dad. I took it from my mom, so what's the big deal? I walked in without saying anything else. The flat was a mess, with takeaway boxes on the table and clothes hung over the couch. Expensive candles were partly lit by I looked around at the pile of fashion magazines and tried to balance myself. Lena rolled her eyes and said, "Your mom sold your car because she thought you didn't need it." The money helped me deal with stress by paying for a spa visit, yoga, and therapy. Sessions were meant to help, but I froze like someone had poured ice water down my throat. Car I bought after 3 years of part-time work, the old, beat-up car. I used to every weekend in the winter wash that car with cold water. Do you even know that car was mine? Not your family's? Get so worked up that I walked out onto the porch because my chest hurt. Was being smashed, but I couldn't keep quiet any longer. I got out of my flat. Manna laughed and didn't move. "You're being too dramatic. It's just a car," she said. "I found her in a flat you left empty for months. My name is Sarah, and I'm your sister." Straight in the eye. My voice was steady and calm. I don't need to say anything else. In an hour, Lena snapped, "Your things, Leaf. You're so selfish the whole time. Family helped me through a tough time, and now you're making a scene. Do you not even feel sorry for the kindness I showed you?" A soft laugh, not because it was funny, but because those words didn't mean anything anymore. "Power over me is being selfish and not hanging on to what is yours." She stormed off to her bedroom and slammed the door. "Everything you need will magically come from someone else's work," she said. One of the picture frames moved and fell, so I didn't wait. I picked up the phone and called an lawyer. That car and that flat were both in my name. It wasn't about family or forgiveness. It was about a grown woman protecting her home and the work she'd done. Spent 30 minutes on it, and then I knocked on Lana's door. "You have an hour to pack. From now on, anyone who breaks into my personal property will be charged with a crime." She stared at me blankly. I was stunned, but I didn't wait for a response. I had stuck around for years for things that should have been clear all along. That night, after Lana locked the door to her apartment, I sat by myself in the mess she left behind. Now things were different. I felt safe in my own home. In the middle of my evening, only the soft hum of the dishwasher and the smell of mint from a brand new candle. Peace that meant something, and no one else was going to take that away from me again. 3 days after Lana left, my mom sent me an email saying that a car is just transportation. Your family is the most important thing to you. Do you really want to make things worse? And admitting you did something wrong is just another message full of guilt, the kind they always knew when and how to attack at the right time and on the right weakness. I didn't bother to react. I sent my lawyer the car title and illegal sale report. The sales ticket was also there as proof. They sent money to Mom's bank account and sent texts that they thought were safe, but were full of information that could be used against them. I didn't want to sue or take my parents to court, but I couldn't just keep being quiet while they did wrong. When the case started, I told no one but my lawyers and 2 close friends. During the process, my mom called. Dad came next, then Lana, and when I didn't answer, they moved on to letters. People never wrote me notes when I was a kid, but now they do. You really want your parents to lose their house? People will think you're an ungrateful daughter because we were just protecting your property and not taking it. I folded the letters, put them in a box, didn't read them again, and didn't answer. The court would do that for me. The hearing went on for 6 weeks, and Mom paid her own lawyer to say that she was only using that the financial records of unauthorized transactions were kept for family reasons, and it was clear that luxury costs were a problem. But when the final decision came, I didn't expect it. Many times, but I finally won. My parents had to pay back the full value of the car, plus, in order to pay the lawyer's fees and civil fines, they had to sell their Eugene home, one I lived in as a child for 18 years. When everything was fixed, I moved to not as many memories in the new flat that is higher up and farther away in Boston. But from where I started, I could now see the river instead of the worn-out row of houses. I was given the title of East Coast Regional Head because my work was going well. I used to think that only other people had, but accomplishments didn't make me cry like awards did. While raises were nice, they didn't fix what had been ignored for years. They were just signs of something deeper. I learned how to protect myself by following the law, setting limits, and being quiet at the right times. La texted me once you did what you asked. I'm now happy. I didn't answer because I didn't care, but I learned that some relationships must change in order to stay alive. Don't get too close to hurt or too far away to hate. I didn't do that. I talked to my parents again, not because I was angry, but because I was no longer. Those kids were ready to give up their peace to protect a family that only lived in their minds. That night, I sat in the living room by myself and looked out at the city in soft orange light. I didn't look at my phone. Just stood there and let the light from the streets blend into the image in the glass. I didn't think about tomorrow, leaking into the silence inside me, not happiness or sadness. Some things don't work that way. Need to be named because some changes happen quietly and stay light. As still as the wind, this story isn't about getting even. It's about the slow as you choose yourself. Sometimes the smallest things, a car, a flat, a quiet evening, draw the line between harm and freedom in real life. People don't need to understand. They need the courage to stop. Real living happens when we choose peace over being forced to join. What would you have done if you were Piper? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful, true stories about family and the changing of times points that make